What's up, everyone? It's the editor of the film that you're gonna watch right now. Quick warning: there is an airsoft gun in this movie. Okay, it doesn't have the orange cap on it because the person who had it lost it, but it is fake. There is no projectiles in it, and you might hear your bullet sound effects, and you might see the gunshot, but it's all post-production. None of it's real, okay? And all of our actors are highly trained in stunts, so all the stunts, no one got hurt. So it's all good, all PG fun. Okay, that's all I needed to tell you today. All right.
On the evening of December 20th, 1968, David Faraday and Betty Lou had just finished their first date at a local diner. Venturing down the dimly lit roads of their small town, they eventually found themselves at a desolate spot known as Lover's Lane along Lake Herman Road. But what began as a typical romantic endeavor soon descended into darkness.
David and Betty were just your average high school students. They had no enemies. They just wanted to go out and have a small dinner. It was like any other night. Who could have expected this to happen?
Dusk turned to night, and while the couple sat in David's car, a man pulled up in a vehicle 10 feet behind theirs. He opened his door and stepped out with no hesitation, discreetly pulling out a 9mm pistol, and immediately started shooting into the left side of the car. The couple frantically moved to the passenger side. Betty got out and ran, and while Faraday was struggling to get out, the attacker shot him point blank in the head. He then turned and focused on Betty, who was running into the forest. He chased her through the woods for roughly 2 minutes before he caught up to her and shot her in the back 5 times, killing her almost instantly.
A guy on a motorcycle rode by a few minutes ago, called the police station. Somehow, David Faraday was still breathing. They got him to the hospital, and he died a few hours later. Our crew looked for some sort of sign, and all the footprints and tire prints were smudged. No motives, no suspects, nothing.
David Arthur and Betty Lou was just the beginning of the horrible killings. 7 months later, on July 4th, 18-year-old Darlene Farron and 16-year-old Michael Mageau were going to get fireworks for a neighborhood Independence Day celebration. But their car was being followed. They tried to lose him in a series of curvy roads, but it was no use. They eventually pulled into the parking lot of Blue Rock Springs Park. The same car again pulled up behind them. Michael, thinking it was the police, pulled out his ID and asked Darlene to do the same. The man walked by the driver's side of the car, pointed his flashlight and gun at them, and shot them. Darlene in the neck and Michael in the arm. Later that evening, a mysterious call was made to the local police.
Vallejo Police Department.
I want to report a double murder.
May I have your
If you
name
go 1
and where
mile
you're calling?
east on Columbus Parkway, public park, you'll find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
Little did the killer know Michael Mageau was alive. He played dead after being shot in the arm and was now telling the police what the culprit looked like.
So not only did we get a call from the killer and a pretty solid picture, but like a month later, he started sending letters to our press, which is the San Francisco Berryessa. So he went by the name of Zodiac, which is the astrological sign circle thing. And in the letters that he wrote, he threatened us by saying if we don't put the letters out on the front page, he would go on a killing spree. So we did.
On these letters, the Zodiac would include ciphers, puzzles that had to be decoded to understand. The Bay Area press decided to post these as well, and 4 days later it was finally cracked. Donald and Betty, a couple a few miles away from San Francisco, decided to try to solve it after seeing it in their morning paper. After going off of clues by the patterns the symbols made, they figured it out. The cipher read, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all. To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife." It then ended with gibberish, some saying it was an anagram. 53 days later, on September 27, 1969, another murder was reported on a small island off the Lake Berryessa. 2 college students were having a picnic when a man wearing a black hood with clip-on sunglasses and a symbol on a bib-like vest, the same symbol used to end all the Zodiac Killer's letters that were written to the press. He appeared from the nearby woods and approached, pointing a gun at the couple, claiming he just escaped from a jail in Colorado, stealing a car in the process. He demanded money and their keys because he said his car was too hot. After taking the couple's keys, he took out a plastic clothesline and demanded Cecilia Shepard to tie Brian Hartnell's hands behind his back. The man did the same to her and began to stab both of them with a knife repeatedly. Killing Cecilia, Hartnell suffers 6 stab wounds and Shepard 10. The killer then hiked 500 yards to Knoxville and drew the cross-circle symbol on Hartnell's car door with a black pen and wrote beneath it, Vallejo, 12/20/68, 7/4/60, September 27th, 69, 6:30, by knife. The Zodiac Killer called the police station again and reported a double murder. But like last time a victim was able to survive the attack, Brian Hartnell was the lucky one. He was interviewed in the hospital 1 week later by CBS.
In speaking with one of the deputies who was investigating this thing, he said that the first thing you told a deputy out there was to give some idea of a description of the man. Do you understand now how your mind was able to work that well under those conditions? You really did an exceptional job in that.
Well, through the whole thing, like I mentioned before, at the beginning, I did think I was going to die. And so from that moment on, one has to have certain goals that you have to set. The first goal, of course, was to live.
By now, the police were starting to see similarities in the Zodiac's murders. 1, the Zodiac mostly targeted young students, mostly couples. 2, the attacks all occurred on weekends. 3, the murders usually took place at either dusk or night. 4, the killer would often brag about his murders in letters or calls. 5, most of the murders took place in well-known lovers' lanes. 6, the murders all took place in or around cars. Finally, 7, the murders all took place near a body of water. But his next victim was different. 2 weeks later, on October 11th, a man was picked up in a taxi driven by Paul Stein at the intersection of Mason and Geary. They drove a few blocks when the driver was suddenly shot by the passenger in the back of the head. He pulled him out of the car, took his belongings and drove off, leaving the car a few miles down the road.
A few days after the murder of Paul Stein, another letter was sent in by the Zodiac. He was claiming that he was the murderer of Paul Stein. What he sent with the letter was more interesting. He sent a bloody cloth. After we evaluated or examined that bloody cloth, we realized it was the shirt tail of Paul Stein.
This was the Zodiac Killer's last official kill. He would make more threats for the next 4 years, even being on a talk show via telephone.
Just tell us what's going on inside you right now, son, please.
I have headache.
The last confirmed letter from the Zodiac was in 1974, where he claimed to have murdered 37 people. The only man ever named as a Zodiac suspect was Arthur Lee Allen. He was a man with military background and was called out in a photo lineup by Michael McGuire. There wasn't enough evidence to convict him of the crime, and he later died in 1992. Only 2 out of the 4 ciphers he's created have been cracked, the most recent being in 2020 by code experts. This unsolved mystery has become extremely popular over the years, and even has a movie made after it called Zodiac. In the movie, an investigator, Mark Ruffalo, played by Robert Downey Jr., becomes extremely invested in the case of the Zodiac as he follows the murders as they take place. The enigma of the Zodiac Killer continues to captivate and intrigue people around the world. Despite decades passing since the chilling spree of murders, the shadow of the Zodiac has been one of the most interesting cases in true crime history.
So we had a picture of him.
On a motorcycle.
David and Betty were just your average high school students. Alright, hold on. Let me